All right, sound check 1 2, sound check 1 2. Anybody hear me okay? Perfect. Thanks, Buck. Okay, I'm going to start out with Bitcoin. Obviously, that's what everybody's looking at since it drives the market. So let's go ahead and start with it here. So as you've been seeing me post, basically this area right up in here is the area that I'm watching, and we may be close enough to it that we may not get there. I'm still expecting us to, but what I expect and what the market does are two different things. But when I see multiple, fib clusters, and what I mean by fib clusters is when I draw fib retracements from one area to the next, and different retracements hit the same area, that's what I call a cluster. And I'm going to go over how I get to that in just a second. It's pretty simple to do. Just takes a few minutes, and anybody can do it. It's not hard. But anyway, this area is what I'm watching. And if you scroll back, and I'm just going to scroll in a little bit, you can see why this area is so important, okay? Is going all the way back to here, this was a support line for Bitcoin, okay? It held this area, held it, and finally broke below it. Now we're moving our way back up, and here we go. We're trying to test this area. It's what I call, and when you see me post on Twitter or in the Discord channel, I talk about old support, new resistance, or old resistance, new support. Well, this is old support, new resistance, right? So that's the area that I'm watching right there. And I'm just going to call it on record right now that if we break above this area, then I think this bear market is over. I'm going to call it on record right now. If we get above this area, it's over. But right now, we're still trying to claw through that resistance, because back here it was big time support. So you got a bunch of bag holders and whatnot back in here. So we'll see what happens. That doesn't mean it's going to just like blast off and go to 12,000 immediately. So don't get me wrong. But I would think that the bear market would be over. It's still not technically over, but the way things are shaping out right now, I think it's getting close. But we'll see what happens. We could still get, a touch of this area and then come back down in here. I would fully expect a test of the 50 EMA once again, because you can see once we broke above it, it tested here, tested here, tested there, got a spike up. I'm expecting that we could possibly test it again around 4,700. So that is what I got on Bitcoin. Any questions on that so far? Okay. So before I go to any other charts, I want to teach everybody something real quick, okay? It is fib clusters, and how do you come up with those? How does it happen? What's the deal with that? Okay, so people ask, and I had one guy, and I'm glad he did it, because I was way overdue to do a live stream, but I'm just going to go show how this kind of works. And I'm just going to pick, here, I'll just pick any random chart. I'll just scroll through here and pick something. Let's go to, let's try TRX, I guess. Well, maybe not, since, there's not a whole lot of swings in this. It's either straight up or straight down here. Let's go to XLM. All right. So I'm going to scroll out, okay, and this is a lengthy chart, right? But what you can do is you can go to your fib retracement tool, and let's just take it from the absolute bottom all the way to the top. Okay, let's go to our settings. Let's plug in some numbers and see what happens. So the 78.6 is right there. It's been broken. Okay. The 127.2, we take that off. That would be the next, and obviously that's negative, so it's not going to go there, right? So when you see something like that and it's already broken the 78.6, then just delete the whole thing. Go to your next one. Find this area. That swing low to this swing high. Okay? See how I draw that? Drew that and get to, some of them already plugged in. So it broke the 78.6, 127.2, and I'll just show you, I'll take it off and put it back on. All right? So I'm going to leave that up there because there's a chance it could get there. I already had a fib retracement drawn in for this area, from this low to this high. And I'll just do it again. Let's do this. All right, so I'm going to take this out and I'll draw it so you can see it. This low to this high. And you can see where the 127.2 is. And you can see how it's trying to hold this area. Okay? There's another one. You could draw multiples, okay? But the whole point being is that when you see, let's say that I had drawn it, well, I don't think I did this one. Let's do this. And see, you can just hover it, and if it doesn't line up, it doesn't line up. Right? But what I'm looking for, and for instance right here, these came close, right? Close being a relative term, but when you get something semi-close like this, where that retracement and this 161.8 matched up in here and came close, that would say that that's a decent area for support. It failed in this instance, right? So, but that's what you look for. You look for combining all these fibs, and when you get a 61.8 lining up with a 38.6, that's powerful. That's powerful stuff. And when they line up, especially when they line up right on top of each other, that's even more powerful. Does that make sense? Or does anybody have questions about that? So what I'll do is I'll get rid of that one because that one didn't line up real good. So for XLM right now, what I'm looking at is this, okay? And here's another cool thing, guys. How many people use line charts? I know everybody and their dog uses candlesticks, but how many people have ever looked at a line chart? Probably not too many. In fact, I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of people on Twitter ever talk about a line chart. But line charts can be very powerful in this instance. So if I switch that to a line chart, it takes all the wicks out of the chart, right? This is based on open and closing prices. Basically, it's all closing prices. But this is where line charts can really come into play and be very helpful, okay? So what would we want to do in this instance? Let's go way back over here, okay? And let's just draw on this little line right here. Let's draw that. And so we get a support line, right? So if XLM really started to crater, then guess what? You can start looking down here from where this line's drawn, and once it broke it, look at the big move that happened. So you can almost bet your bottom dollar that this area right here is going to be defended very well, right in here. Okay? So let's go look at another one. Let's go look at, let's look at Litecoin. So here's Litecoin. Same thing. You can take this, and I drew this one off the wicks, but if I was to take this and draw it off of just the closing price, it's pretty close. It's an area, right? And so that's how you define, and people are smart when they, you just don't want to draw just you can draw a regular line, but some people will want to do a rectangular kind of thing, and I'll show you. So like on your TradingView chart, you can go over here to your tool and pick rectangle, right? And so you can draw your own little area. And so now that we've seen where it topped at, we can kind of get a gauge of what we need to get past, right? So, but to me right now, and I drew this earlier just based off a line chart, okay? This support line for Litecoin, which coincidentally happens to be the 50% retracement. So we're just basically in a zone right here. Okay, zigzagging, chopping people up until it gets above or below these lines right here. I don't think a whole lot's going to happen. You can sit there and scalp it all day long. You can switch to a 4-hour chart. You can switch to a 30-minute chart. I don't know what your financial position is or what your schedule is during the day, but this stuff works on all time frames. So it's not just a daily or a weekly, but you have to look at everything in context, right? So you have to look at, if you're looking at a long-term chart, then you have to be aware of support and resistance for that long-term trade. So you have to define your trading. Are you a scalper? Are you a swing trader? Or are you long-term? Or are you both? Or all? But using all the tools that you have, and one of my favorites is just, look at this. It's just support and resistance. It's that simple. Too many people try to put patterns on stuff, and I'm even guilty of it sometimes. But to me, I can see it, and I know my charts can look messy at times. For instance, like that. So people look at that and they're like, oh my God, what a mess. Well, that's because I've got all the moving averages, I've got the Bollinger Bands, and I've got the fib retracements on there. So yeah, it looks messy. But if I go to a simpler looking thing, which I'll do from time to time, I'll just keep it simple. That helps. It kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow. So, but anyway, What I like about Bitcoin is, you know, when I see all these moving averages start to cluster like this, and especially like after, you know, that downtrend, when you see moving averages spaced far apart, that's big time resistance. But once it starts to break through the first one and inch its way up, and then you get past some bigger ones, then we've established a trend, right? So we're in an uptrend, but it's an uptrend within a larger downtrend. Okay? So everybody needs to keep that in mind. And that's why I say that this area right here, which I pointed out earlier, if we can get above, I think that ends the bear market. So I'm going on record, and you heard it here. If we can get above 6,000, right? If we can get above that, that ends the bear market. But for right now, still fighting to get through it. Any questions? All right, if not, I will go on to, let's go to Ethereum, and I'll just put this on a line chart as well. Hang on one second, guys. All right, any questions? Okay, okay, adding the moving averages. Okay, so are you using TradingView or Coinigy? Probably TradingView, I'd imagine. Anyway, Coinigy and TradingView are very similar. Okay, and I will go and show you. Let me pull up just a simple one here. Okay, so TradingView and basically I don't have like the pro plan on TradingView, but I do have everything on Coinigy. But they're going to be pretty same. So if you go up to indicators, and you'll just see it on mine. You'll click on this area up here at the top, right here where my cursor is, where it says indicators. And then you'll look over here to the right. And then you're going to go moving average. Now, there's two different ways you can do this on moving averages. You can go moving average, which is simple, or you can go exponential. To me, some people like simple, some people like exponential. It's just a matter of the weighting and the timing of these. I tend to use exponential on most everything, really, but on the longer term ones, 50 and above, I will throw on simples. But I look at all of them. So you would just click on that. Of course, it's not going to let me, right? See? But I will go over to Coinigy, and it's pretty much the same thing. So you go up here, or I'll just show you, indicators, and you just type in moving average. And so you get your choice. If you want a simple one, you just click on it. And then it's going to pop on a default moving average. And then you just have to find it. Of course, this one's so messy I can't find it. But you have to find it, right-click on it. So let me do this. Here, I'll see if I can find it. I have to zoom in because it put it on there. And it's going to default to a 9-day moving average, both on TradingView and Coinigy. Let me see if this is the one. Nope. I think it's this one. Nope. Zoom in a little closer. There we go. So it's going to default to a 9. And all you'll want to do is change it with your arrows. Just do a 10, 20, 50, whatever you want to use. And then just make sure you change the colors. Otherwise, it'll really confuse you. My colors, it just pick your style. And you can do that over here with style. Just go over there and click on the plot, pick your color, and then you can change the width of it, right? So if you wanted your 10-day to be thinner, so you can still see it, and then make your bigger term, longer term moving averages thicker. That's what I do. But just write them down, and that way you can remember them. So hopefully that will help you. I need to get that one out of there. There we go. All right. Okay, and then by the way, I still want to point out this little fact, and I'll pull this chart over. This right here is the Bitcoin futures chart. Okay, this is traded on the Chicago Board of Exchange. Okay, so it's a futures chart, and I'm just going to scroll in. I'm going to zoom it in so everybody can see it. But if you didn't see my post on Twitter about, the candlestick pattern, and this is one of the things that, I still would like to see and still think it might get up to 5,800, but there's a good chance that it may not. And why do I say that? Well, it's because of this candle pattern right here. Okay? You got 2 candles, one green, one red. When the red one opens up above the green one and then overtakes it by at least 1/2, and it did this right here, that's called a dark cloud cover. And usually what they name it for is rainy days ahead. Okay, that's where it comes from. So rainy days ahead means it's going down. And so after this happened, you can see that it got the dip down, okay, and it's made a little bounce back right here. But until it can get back within the body of this, it's still just trending, right? This still has the potential to just drop, okay? It still does. And we're holding the 200-day moving average, but it needs to get here or above. It's got to get past that dark cloud cover. Otherwise, this thing risks dropping lower. The other thing that I watch, and unless you have a TD Ameritrade account or a Thinkorswim charting platform, you won't be able to get this indicator, but this is a squeeze indicator. And so what I watch for on this is you can see the histogram right here, but when it's green, that means everything's good to go long, right? But the minute that it changes to a different color, that means that the squeeze is over, okay? And normally you'll get a heads up like on the histogram. So when you get usually this lasts on a squeeze, it'll usually last about 7 to 8 bars. And in this case, it did. You may get that extra pump out of it. But once it goes green, that's your instance to go long. If the histogram is up, right? Back here, when it's like you get red little dots, and then you get a green one right here on that big candle, that is the telltale sign that you do not go long. and you can see what happens. It saves your bacon, right? So you stay out until this starts to come back up again, and then it goes flat for a while. Histogram just stays steady. You don't really get a clear indication of anything. Sideways, sideways. Come over here, and when it's flat and you get a green with an up, boom. So right now we've got red on the dots, right? The red dots mean do not go into anything. Just stay in cash. I mean, are you going to miss maybe an initial move? Possibly. But that doesn't mean that you need to go just chasing it and betting your future on something that might happen. This could go either way. So right now, while I'm mildly bullish, I am very cautious. Really thought we would get up to 5,800, but or 5,900, but it was close. So whether that's local top, who knows? I still trust candlesticks at times when I see something like that, but we'll see what happens. Okay, any questions, or does anybody want me to go over anything else chart wise? Requests? Any chart requests? In fact, I could do some fib retracements on a live one if you want. If not, I'm just going to kind of go through and we'll look at some of these. Anthony, I mean, staying away from alts, I don't know that I would say that. Because as long as Bitcoin, here's the thing. As long as Bitcoin can stay stable, okay, and I mean stable as in just stay in a 200 sat range. I don't want to see anything go way below 5,000. I mean, I would like to see that hold up as support. But it's one of those, as long as Bitcoin's stable, pick your alts. Some of them are going to run. There's just, and when I say that, there's a lot of people out there that are pumping stuff. They're still out there. I don't know what channels they're in, what they do or whatever, but they're going to pump them and they're going to get a crowd to follow. And you can see that stuff with charts, right? With volume, with whatever. So I don't know that I would stay totally clear of them, but be picky, That's just my thoughts. Michael, let's look at DGB. Yep. In fact, I remember posting about that one here back. Let's see. Okay, here we go. DGB. Yeah. And does anybody remember what I said about that green line right there? That if it broke it, look out below. Look what happened. It broke support and down she went. So here's my thoughts. Is that I don't know. I mean, you could technically start to buy a small position here. I don't know that I would just go all in because fibs are the key, right? And so I still think that based on that breaking right there, that green line, the support line, I think it's possibly going to come down and test that 127.2. So I got that at 178 to 180. I would say that if it hits that area, and trust me, I'll be there as well, I think that would be a prime time bounce area to get in. I mean, could you get in right now with a little bit, just in case, for whatever God knows reason it wanted to turn right now? Sure. But be aware that if you do, that there's a chance that it could come down to the 127.2 retracement. And I think at that level, there's going to be probably a ton of people getting in just because it's so cheap. So that's what and not only that, but look at the moving averages. You know, it's going to take them a little bit of time to work its way back down here. So, you know, I wouldn't look for any, like, you could get a wild spike out of somewhere. But these moving, the 10 and the 20, they're far apart from each other. That's heavy resistance. So is in between here and here. That's just heavy downside resistance right there. It's just weighing down on it. So it's going to take DGB a while, I think, to get its act together. But we'll see. And it's really disappointing because I love DGB. They need to get on more exchanges. Okay, let's see. Bach, I'm glad I could help, man. That's what I'm trying to do. I just need to spend more time doing some live sessions and showing people what to look for and how you do it. You know, I mean, too many people, and like I say, I mean, I'm kind of guilty of it myself, is I throw too many things on a chart and I almost expect everybody to understand what it is. But until I go back to something like this, where there's not so many moving averages on there, that's the best thing to look at, is you just kind of keep it simple, right? You know, don't throw a whole lot of crap on there, and just keep it simple. It's all about support and resistance. Anthony, let's see here. ENG. Yeah, let me look at ENG, because that was one I looked at a while back. Let me look at this one. Somebody last live stream I did. In fact, I think I said I liked it, and I was going to keep an eye on it and never did. Let's see here. Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, because I had it saved in here. All right, so let's do this while we're live, and I'll just show you guys what I do, okay? Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here, and I'll just show you like I'm doing it like like having a beer or whatever. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's take. Okay, so I did draw it from here to here. Okay, so I'll leave that on there. Let's take out the 127.2 since it dropped. Below that, let's take out this. I had that in there for some reason. Let's just clear it up a little bit. That can go away. And let's get rid of that. Okay. All right, so let's go in here. See, and here's the other thing too. These little wicks, these little wild spikes, I don't like that. That just messes up a chart like you wouldn't believe, right? So there's no way I'm going to draw a fib retracement from here up to here. I can't do it, because that had to be a misprint or something. I just don't think there's any way that if I was to go look at a 1 minute chart that really happened, right? It just didn't. That's a bad print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to act like that never happened, that little wick, right? And so I'm going to go over here to where a real low was, right there, next to it. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to draw it to that high. And then I'm going to go format it. Yeah, you can't. If you're trying to draw fibs from those wild spikes like that, you can't do it. There's no way. That just screws up a chart. So let's see. Let's go past the 78.6 and we got the 127.2, which is down at 23.53. All right, so let's do that. Let's draw another one because I did this one. I did it from here to here, right? So now I'm going to do it from here to here. Let's go see what happens here. And let's see if a 78.6, nope, passed it. So we'll leave that. And then, since that happened, I'm going to do this. And I think I may have already done it. Let me see if I did or not. Okay, let's do this. Let's do a fib retracement from this low to this high. Okay, so see what I mean about clusters? I just did that retracement and you can see the blur, but I've got two fib retracements lining up right on top of each other right here. So it's close. I mean, it went below it, but why did it go below it? Because of this, maybe? If I change that to a green, it had a previous low back here. So it had good support here, but it had better support right there. And then let's change, let me get that off there. Okay. And you've got it testing the 20-day or the 10 EMA right here, 20 right here. And so if we assume, and I hate assuming, but in fib world, you almost have to. Let's just say that that is a short-term bottom. Then you take your fib retracement from this high to this low. Okay, and let's go through the numbers on it. Let's do 38.2, 23.6, which 23.6 has been a resistance. And then we'll throw the 50, 61, 78 on there. Right? So now things kind of come together a little bit, but let's just say that that's an even more important low. Then you come up here and take to that high to this low, right? And this is where it kind of looks messy, right? But you have to look at this. Then you go in and format it and see if anything lines up, right? So what I'm looking for is if anything lines up like a 23 on 23.6 on a 38.2. And I've got something right here, right? Look at this. If I scroll in, and you'll be able to see it. See how the 61.8 and the 23.6 kind of line on each other? Real close? That's an important area. Okay? So that's one you would want to keep an eye on. This area right here would be important if it makes a bigger move. Okay? So if this thing starts turning and makes a bigger move, then this fib cluster is going to be important. Okay? That's going to be an important area. Does that make sense? Did y'all see how I did that? But for now, what's the key? You want to see it get past the 10 EMA, right? You want to see it close above that. And right now, look what's happening. It's just getting rejected each time it hits the 10 EMA. So, do you take a long here? In my opinion, no. But what do you watch for is this. You have good support. You have a bullish, okay, and I'm going to point this out, okay, and I'm going to zoom in. You have a bullish engulfing candle, okay? So you had this big downtrend, you got this big red stick, and then all of a sudden it hits the support from back over here, and you get a huge bounce off of it. So somebody is interested right here. Okay, bullish engulfing. That's a bullish pattern right there. And now it's just kind of consolidating a little bit. People have obviously taken some profits off that move, but it's consolidating right here. So you want to see it maybe consolidate maybe a day or more. And then if it can start turning up and then get past the 23.6, that's your area. That's when you get in and you ride it up to this. Inverse head and shoulders, possibly. I mean, it would take, I don't see the, I don't know. I mean, you possibly got a head here, maybe a shoulder here. So if it just consolidates down to this area again, I mean, now if it drops below this fib cluster again, I would get worried. But yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Okay, so you're talking about on ENG, the highs and lows that I did? Okay. All right, so let me go back here. And basically, when you roll your mouse over it, you can see where you drew them from. So I'll leave one right there, okay? And that's from this high to this low. You can also draw one from this high to this low. And if you wanted to see the downside, you draw it from this low to this high, right here. Or you could draw one from, let's see what happens here. I don't know if I did this one. Look at this. Let's see what happens here. So I could do a fib retracement from that one, and then let's go and format it. Let's go take all this junk out, and let's just see if a longer term fib popped in here somewhere. Take that out, and let's go to a 261.8. Nope. All right, so that one didn't work. Okay. So I just take it out. And that's what you do with fibs, is you have to play with them. You have to move it from swing low, swing high, shorter term, midterm, low to high, high to low. I mean, that's what's amazing about fibs. And then you can just, like I say, when you see something like this line up right on top of each other, that's your key. Okay, any other questions? Any chart requests? All right, in that case, I'm going to go look at some other stuff here. All right, so here's Ethereum. And I posted this on Twitter. This right here is that's a bear flag, right? And so when you scroll out and you look at it, and I know it broke that downtrend line that I've been talking about forever, but this one, I don't know. It's holding this trend line, okay? Boom, boom, and boom. What bulls want to see is and this thing has got to go, and it's got to go quickly, right? So you want to see it bounce off this and get through that, right? And if it does, then the whole market takes off. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. The question is, will it do it? You know, this right here, here's something to keep an eye on. So that's Ethereum. Let's go look at Litecoin. Litecoin, I drew this little area right here, support, which was old resistance, right? And this is not hard to do, guys. Not hard at all. But right here, resistance, 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 popped through. Now you put your green line in there, and that should be support. Should be support. %50 retracement down here. So that lines up right on top of that green line. So we'll see what happens. Did have a nice little reversal candle right here, or pattern, coming down. Then you get the big red candle, bullish engulfing. Now we're testing the 10 and 20 day moving averages. So it's got to get above those. If it can get above these and hold this area, it could take out the red resistance line. So that is Litecoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. And this is rather interesting. I've been hearing a lot of people that really like Bitcoin Cash, and this is rather interesting. But look at this. So you've got this, and this is a daily chart. You got the long downturn, downtrend line right here. It broke above, okay? Broke out of that. And now look what's happening. And this is actually pretty bullish in my view. And again, I don't know a ton about Bitcoin Cash. I really don't, guys. I look at charts. But back testing this downtrend line is pretty bullish, and the bounce off of it, that is really bullish. So we'll see what happens with this one. But look at this. If the 10 and 20 can hold up and it can get back above those, this thing could be on its way to new highs. At which point, there's a fib cluster, by the way, up here at 420. Not saying it's going to get there tomorrow or next week, but I'm just saying if it can hold this right here and break above this resistance, then it's going to make a move up here to the next fib retracement in that cluster. And it's got stochastic RSI. Volume's picking up right here a little bit. Not quite what it was back in here, but that usually is what happens at the start of a move. You start to get volume increasing, and then you see what happens. Let's go look at ONT. And this is where you can get conflicting signals as well. Obviously, you got the moving averages working down against it, right? So you want to be real careful about taking positions when this is working against you. So, but you got support. You got the old resistance, new support line right here. You got your 78.6 retracement here, 127.2 right underneath it. So this area right here is pretty strong support, and it looks like people are buying in advance of that. So we'll see. Keep an eye in the next few days on ONT. Could it drop back down into here? You probably wouldn't want it to. If you're a bull, you would just want it to hang right here, okay, and hold these lows. Possible double bottom, but watch your volume as well. But if it would break above the 10 EMA, that's kind of like your early signal that something might be happening. So you can see back in here, moving averages working against you. It breaks above on a spike, but then works its way back down before it finally slow plays and comes back up here, and the 10 and the 20 cross. And that's when you get in. So one to keep an eye on. ZRX, haven't looked at that one in a while. Pretty much same kind of thing. The only thing I don't like about ZRX right now, at least long term, is this big descending triangle. Okay, but much the same way that Ethereum and Litecoin had, it could hold this area right here and then bounce all the way back up here to get people all bullish again before breaking back down. So this is where you have to be real selective and cautious on what you're getting into. I'm not saying that ZRX is going to go straight down here right now. This thing could just actually turn right here and make a massive move up into here and hit the trend line and then back off. And just be an ultimate bull trap. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just one that I watch. When I see patterns like this, I just, for the long term, and this could play out again. Look how wide this thing is. This could last all the way into next year before this thing drops off a cliff. If it does. I mean, it could break out of it and just be massive. So it's just one of those you have to be aware of. Let's go look at another one of people's favorites right now. Oh, yeah. Let's see. How do you think crypto behaves in a recession? How would it... Well, I don't know how it would be. behave in a recession because we haven't had a recession since Bitcoin came on board. So I mean, my guess, everything in a recession, here's what happens. People lose their jobs, right? People or companies cut back. People lose their jobs and they can't afford to be in crypto, or they can't afford to be in stocks. And that's why recessions drive prices lower. So my guess is that if there was a recession, then you're probably going to see, crypto, stock market, things of that nature go down. You would probably see stuff like gold go up, gold and silver, only because that's a safe haven. I can't imagine for the life of me that people would think that Bitcoin is a safe haven for anything. But who knows? I could be wrong, and until proven otherwise. I just think that Bitcoin, until something comes out regulated, that it's, and I'm not going to say legit, because we know it's legit, but I just think that people would probably pull their money out, and they would go to something that's more proven, right? Why would you stay in something that's going down and it's been down over 80%? I just think people will pull stuff out of risky investments. That's what I'm trying to say. And Bitcoin's still risky. Just being honest. I mean, now, 10, 20 years from now, that may change. Or maybe even 5 years. But who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I can just only call it like I see it. That's what I'm here to do. I'm trying to save people money and trying to keep them from mortgaging their house and thinking that Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million and they're going to all of a sudden retire and go to a beach. It's not happening. That doesn't mean that I don't think that Bitcoin in a few years might, make a big run. But some of these people that are calling for like $1 million or 500,000, I mean, come on. To me, that's pipe dream stuff. And that's people just trying to get you excited and get you into it. And why they would even claim something like that, I have no clue. Let's see. Do I ever stock up for long term? Yeah. So, okay. So here's my philosophy. In case you haven't been in my channel, but my trading philosophy is this. Okay, if I get into something, I get in and let's just say I'll just throw Bitcoin out there for example. Okay, and if I get into Bitcoin, I pick a price that I'm getting in, okay? But I have a target that if it goes in my direction, that I'm going to take probably half out, maybe a quarter of my position after I have a profit. My initial goal really is to get my initial investment out, right? So if I get in and I've got a profit, and I'm not saying I'm saying like my initial investment plus a little profit, okay, and get that out, then I want to try to let the rest ride, okay, and I want to try to build a portfolio so that if Bitcoin ever drops to zero, then I haven't lost any capital that I've invested, period. And that could be Bitcoin, altcoin, whatever you name it. I just want to have a position in something so that if it ever takes off, then I'm good. I mean, I may not be like 100% in, but at least I'm in it. Does that make sense? Now, the downside to that is that when you get into something, you also have to be very, very strict about when to get out. Okay? You can't just sit there and hold it and hope, that it's going to go up, right? You have to be very strict. And trust me when I say this, in my 20 years of trading, it's happened to me numerous times, is that I would get into something, I would set my stop loss, and then it would come down and hit my stop loss, only to see a wick hit my stop loss and then turn and go in the other direction, away from me. There is nothing more frustrating in this world when that happens. And you almost find yourself wanting to, you see it turn and all of a sudden you want to go chase it, right? They call it a revenge trade. And I will only say this, stay away from that. Do not ever revenge trade. It took me a long time to realize that one. Start revenge trading something and you find yourself, you can get broke real quick. The other thing I'll say is patience, right? So, if you're a long-term holder, and let's just say you don't take, my trading theory, and you just want to be a swing trader and you're going to go 100% in, which I do not ever recommend. Don't ever go to 100% into anything. Then you've got to be patient. If you, have a stop loss and let's just say it doesn't hit and it just goes sideways, your emotions can affect you so much, right? And that's the thing you have to keep in check is your emotions. It took me a long time to realize that too, because if you sit there and watch your computer screen all day, what are you doing? You're looking at charts and you're looking at candles, right? And you're looking at a 5-minute chart. You're probably looking at a 30-minute chart. And all of a sudden you see this big green stick and you're going, oh, yay, 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 whatever. But instead, why not be looking at an hourly chart, 4-hour chart, daily chart, and try to see where those resistance areas are, support areas are, and play those. Just know where to get in and where to get out and have a plan. And stick to it, because nothing is going to go straight up. Nothing is going to go straight down. There's going to be bounces. You just have to pick your spots, and be comfortable with it. If you get out and it runs, however much, and it goes away from you, if you still make a profit, be happy with it. Be happy with it. Sometimes people don't get that. And that's the big mistake, is that they have a good profit, they get out and they see it keep running and they want to go chase it, and then they FOMO into it again, and then they end up losing money on a big red stick that comes out and scares them out, people selling out. So try not to make that mistake. Does anybody have any chart requests? Anybody want me to look at anything? I think what I may do is I may go to, I'm going to do this. Let's see. This is probably one of my more favorite charts. And I've posted this on Twitter. So this is my moving average. It's a simple chart, right, for Bitcoin. There's no Bollinger Bands, there's no RSI, there is no stochastics. This is just moving averages and support, resistance, and fibs. Okay? And so when I look at something like this, right, and let's just go back and look. What happens back in here? Okay, you see Bitcoin stumbling and blah, blah, blah. It gets above and then it starts holding the 50-day moving average, right? In yellow. It's the yellow line, okay? The 50-day moving average is the yellow line, okay? Then you get your bigger ones underneath it, the 200, right? I got both 200-day moving averages, the simple and the EMA, right? So when you get those going in the same direction, look what happens. You get a nice trend, don't you? Okay? When they go against you, look what happens. You go into a bear market, right? Bear markets, on average, last how long? About a year, year and a half. Maybe 2 at the most. So, how long has this been? A year? We're getting into a year and a half. Has this ended? We don't know. But I'm just saying, I would not be a big proponent of shorting long-term Bitcoin. Right? Because now we're starting to get these moving averages, the 10, the 20, the 50, they're all hooking up. And when is the last time they have hooked up in this vertical of a fashion, right? You can see back in here where it tried, right? Tried, failed, tried, failed, tried, no. Now it's hooking up. And when you can get these hooking up, it's like back in here. See what happened back in here? Tried, failed, failed. Hooking up. Now it's all working in tandem. I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying this is like 500,000, but my thing right now is that if it gets above this red line, okay, and this could take all the way into what, October, November, before this thing really starts. If it was going to do this, all the moving averages line up, and you can almost envision in your mind, as long as price holds up, that these are going to curl and start moving up. Right? I would not short this. I would not be expecting, unless somebody came out today or tomorrow and said that Bitcoin, like the government said it was a scam and we found this guy and blah, blah, blah. I would not expect a big red stick out of here. Okay? It just doesn't happen. There's too much support now based on the 50 and the 200, right? Scroll in. Okay? You still got one of these 200s that is still going down, but you got your 50 coming up providing support. And where's that area at? 47.58. So where are you going to expect support if Bitcoin starts to drop? Right there. and it gets higher each day. Okay? So if there was a drop to happen, are you really going to expect, like, could we get a wick maybe below it just a little bit? Sure. But on a closing basis, no. That's not my expectation. The support for this keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And until these start to turn the other direction, and right now it's going to take a little while. If these are going to start to turn, it's going to take a while to turn them. That's all I'm saying. Is that not cool? Is that not really cool? You got to admit that's pretty cool. Even my cat thinks so. Right there. Look at that. Is that not a thing of beauty? Look at that. First time it's been above the 50-day moving average since, well, at least in this instance, like big time, since July of last year. So we're approaching almost a year since it's been above the 50-day moving average. It's been exactly that long since it's been above the 200-day moving average. So on a daily basis, that looks fantastic. Let's go look at a weekly. All right. Let's see what happens on the daily chart. Hang on here. Well, before I do that, let me go over here, and I'm just going to show you the weekly real quick. Okay. And so why do I think that if we break above 5,800 that the bear market's over? Obviously the area I showed you, but isn't it kind of ironic that this area right back in here, and in fact I could actually move it on the daily chart. I didn't move it over far enough, but I could do it like that. Okay, but look where the 50-day moving average is on the weekly chart in yellow right here. Okay, I don't think it's a coincidence that this old support, new resistance line is real close to where the 50-day moving average is. So my guess is, again, if we pop this area, then the bear market's over. Period. You got the 10-day moving average coming up. You got the 20-day moving average coming up. You got the 200-day moving averages down here, right? So, again, this could like be the end, but it's going to take a while. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I don't think it's going to happen next week. It's one of those work in progress, right? Just chop, 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 but at some point, something is going to happen on this 50-day moving average, and that's what you want to watch right there. Right there. And if I was to switch this just for giggles and grins to a line chart, look what happens. Okay, and I'm going to scroll in. Okay, forget about wicks, right? All we're worried about is closing price. But look what happens. See how the closing price, if it can close above the 50-day moving average, okay, and I'm saying get a close up here around 5,600, that might get people excited. Just might get them excited. We'll see. I've seen some people calling for a head and shoulders pattern and whatnot, and it very well may happen. I mean, the 50-day moving average right here is still hooking down. That's resistance. Okay? Still hooking down. But these have hooked up. So these two are going to be support. The question is, when do these converge? Right? Because at some point, these moving averages are going to converge. The question is, what's going to happen when they do? And based off my daily chart, it looks like it could go long. I'm not there totally yet. I'm not ready to make that call, but that's the way it looks. If it fails, then it fails horribly, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it could get ugly. But like I said, it's going to take something disastrous news-wise or government-wise or whatever to make that happen. Okay, any questions? Any chart requests? Or does anybody want me to go over anything again? I hope people that are coming in late for this will go back and watch this. I went over some pretty cool stuff on moving averages and fibs. There's that daily chart of the moving averages. And there's the weekly. Let's go look at, real quick, I want to look at a monthly since we just ended the month. Oh, yeah. And you can see where I drew the fib on this right here. Okay, is that I drew it from this high to this low. And typically you would almost expect a test of the 23.6 if, and it looks like that was a real low, right? Obviously. So could we possibly go test 7,000 at some point? Sure we can. Could it take a few months? Absolutely. I mean, if I was to go back and do this, let's just go look and see what happened right here when everybody thought that was the bottom. Where did it go test? Went and tested the 38.2. Right? Or people were saying maybe that was low. Where did it go test? Got close to the 23.6. So, just saying. And not only that, but it's above the 10 EMA now. And as long as it can hold it, and where is that 10 EMA at? It's at 49.90. As long as it can hold it on a closing basis, maybe it goes up and tests the 20. So those two moving averages, now that there's enough data, you know, and now you get your 50-day moving average on the monthly chart hooking up. So I don't get where people are, you know, calling for this 1,000 or 2,000, or I just don't get it. And I'm sorry, I'll flat out calling them idiots right now. Don't listen to them. Just look at your charts. If they call for that, then ask them where their charts are at. All right, guys. Any other questions or chart requests? All right, well, I'm going to carry on here a little bit. Let's see what else we can look at. XRP, Ripple. Here's one that I did a while back. This is back when we had the Morningstar candle formation. Right there, and had a nice move, but now it's since broken it, so the Morningstar is now invalid. But it's still holding support right here. Right now, I don't like it, so I would say just be careful of Ripple. It's got some support down below, but unless you're swing trading it or just in and out, not sure I would be in it for the long term just yet. ETC. let's see. After the wild spike, let's draw a fib on it from, there we go. Let's draw a fib from here to here. And let's see what lines up. Had to bounce for a reason, right? Close to the 78.6. Leave that there. And had that, had a support line right here, which I'll show. Right there. Now that was old resistance, right? Now new support, and it's trying to bounce off it. Needs to get back above the 10 and the 20 to be able to carry on. Let's do a fib retracement from here to here. And let's see what happens. Definitely not to the 38.2, not even close to the 23.6. All right. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Not a big fan right now. We've already looked at DGB. It's also got that uptrend line right here. You see the uptrend line right here. Boom, boom, and possibly boom, but still the risk of hitting the 127.2. So it's getting close, right? Getting close. Just keeping an eye on this area if it can hold. If not, then she's going to the abyss at 112. But you got your stochastic RSI pretty low, so could it get a bounce off that? Sure. Sure can. This thing has been in a just massive bear market. But right here is the area that has to hold. That trend line. Let's go look at, what else can we look at? TRX, let's see here. We did that one earlier. Trying to hold support. Kind of like most altcoins, right guys? Most altcoins are trying to hold on to some major major support areas after their breakouts. Big area right there for TRX. Let's go look at BAT. Okay, BAT. Let's see what's going on here. All right, so let's do a fib on this. And this is one of those I'm going to do multiple fibs on. All right, here's a perfect example, and I haven't done this one yet, but I'm going to do it right now, and let's see what happens. Retracement from here to here. Okay, that's fib 1. Let's take off the ones that it's crossed. Okay, so it's holding the 61.8. All right, so that's one. Let's go over here and do another one. And let's go from this low to this high. And does anything line up? Let's go in here and see. All right, this is pretty interesting. So look at this. Excuse me. All right, So they're not lined up on top of each other, but that's what happens when you get multiple fibs, right? Look how these two line up on top of each other pretty close to, and these two. We're getting some support right here. If it breaks that, then your next support is in this area, right? So now let's go to an even longer one and see what happens. Let's go back here. And I'm not really seeing, well, actually there is. All right, so let's take this off. I'll just get the 38.2 and the 50 out of there and just kind of clean things up a little bit. Yeah, 61.8, 70.6, I'll take that out. So see, this is what I'm talking about on clusters, right? You just have to draw them from different places. And so if this thing's dropping, you want to see it. And right now it's holding the 10 and the 20 EMAs. But this is an important area. If it drops this area, then you want to come down and look at this area. Okay, if it drops that, you come down and you look at this, etc., etc. So let's also do this. For the longest time, BAT has struggled to get out of what? Let's do a rectangle on this. Right? That area right there. See that? That red line? For the longest time, was that not resistance? And so now, let's flip it. And make it green. That should be support. If that is not support and this area does not hold, that is a failed breakout. And if that's a failed breakout, then this thing craters. It drops, right? That's a bull trap. So that's what I would be watching for on BAT. I know a lot of people are into BAT right now, so that's my theory, at least. We'll check back in on that one in about a week or so and see what happens. What else can we look at? ICX. And here's another one that is at the 78.6 retracement. Get that 61.8 out of there. Let's pass that. All right, so I drew it from there to there. That's about all I can do on that. As far as areas to draw, if you're looking for, and it's hard to say if that was actually the low or not, but if it was, let's just do something like this. Drawing it from one low to one high. All right, so there's those. And let's draw it from this high to this low and see if anything lines up. And there is. All right, so if I scroll in, here's another fib cluster example. Scrolling in, and you got 38.2 and the 50, I guess, is what it looks like. Yeah, 50% retracement, lining up right on top of each other perfectly at 758. So if that's a real low, if that's the low, and this starts to turn and gets above the 10 EMA, then right up here is your first target. Right in here. And then your next is right up here where another fib cluster is. And then another one lines up on top of it right up here. If that was the low. And it's very possible you could have, possibly, if this starts to hook on the stochastics, you could have a bullish divergence. But it's got to have follow through. And let's see what else happened here. And you got some support right there. Whether that holds or not, we'll see. But pretty strong support right in this area. That's ICX. Does anybody else have anything? Anybody want me to look at chart? I got about 10 minutes left. Here's Cardano. Still holding that fib cluster right there. After a bullish engulfing too, by the way. That's pretty important support right there. I mean, you got a 61.8 and a 78.6 fib cluster right in this area. That's pretty important support right there. Major support. So we'll see what happens. I haven't looked at Neo in a while. Let's see what's going on with it. Ethereum, USD, BitMEX. Okay, let me go to that one. I'm gonna have to use this one over here. Let's go to, that's Bitfinex. Here's BitMEX. All right. Okay. Pretty much, I'll tell you what, Haji, is that it's the same as the other chart. I mean, there's really no difference off what you requested. Let me go back to my Ethereum chart. And this is on the GDAX exchange. So it's pretty much the same thing, right? Okay. Is that, and I'll zoom in. Okay. So Ethereum has held this trend line, right, for a while. It broke the long-term downtrend line, okay, but it's bouncing again off this uptrend line. It's still holding the 50 EMA, and so what bulls would want to see, it's having a trouble with the 38.2 on the upside from here to here on that retracement, right? So what you would want to see is you would want to see it get above the 50% retracement and start working its way back up. I think this is a Ethereum is one of those that well, and I'll just go back to here. I'll go back to this other chart. This is the one that's more simple, right? And this is what I talked about, is that, I mean, longer term bear flag, shorter term bull flag. Okay, so there's a big battle going on right now. Okay, big battle. And here's the area that you want to watch. And I'll just throw a rectangle on it. Okay. Let's do this. If I can get it to line up, there we go. Okay, so right up in here, okay, you had closing prices. And if I was to switch this to, let me go do a line chart. Okay, so when I switch this to a line chart, okay, because most people get caught up in candlesticks and wicks and blah, 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 blah. But line charts give you closing prices, right? Which really are more important than anything else. So when I line this up, this is what I get. Closing price here, closing price there. It has not closed above this old support line, right? Which then is now resistance. So if it can get above, let's say 186, if it can close above 185 or 186, then I think you're good to go. I think it's bullish, right? But for now, it's rejecting that area only because that was support for a while, and you got some bag holders right in this area. And they're looking to get out, right? They got stuck. They went through this. They're getting back probably maybe to break even or hoping to, or they average down, whatever. But they're just wanting to get out. So above the red line is the key. But you got a bear flag here, long-term, short-term bull flag. If it can break above that and negate the bear flag, then you're good to go. But right now it's just a choppy mess. All right, guys, any other questions? I'm getting ready to head off to bed. Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Hopefully I can save you guys some money and make you money as well. All right, guys. I'm out. Y'all have a great evening. Appreciate it.